With its flagship GH5 mirrorless, Panasonic was already more committed to video than any other camera company. But the GH5S is in another league. Because of that 10.2 megapixel sensor, it's really more for video than photography. That sensor is the perfect size for 4K, and thanks to larger pixels and dual native ISO, it's much better than the GH5 in low light. That will seriously tempt videographers looking at Sony and Canon cameras. The GH5S has the same body as the GH5. Controls and menus are identical, so it handles much the same. Inside, there are some big differences though. On top of having lower resolution, the GH5S lacks the GH5's in-body stabilization. The GH5S has a so-called multi-aspect sensor, a type we last saw way back on the GH2. It's slightly larger than the one on the GH5 in order to provide a wider field of view for video. This makes it more competitive with APS-C cameras from Sony, Canon, Nikon, and Fujifilm. But Panasonic couldn't fit this sensor into the GH5 body and have in-body stabilization at the same time, so it was bye-bye to the stabilization. In exchange, it's more light sensitive and works better for 4K video. And many videographers, other than vloggers or run-and-gun shooters, would rather use dedicated stabilizers like DJI's Ronin. The GH5S is much better than the GH5 for low-light shooting, with usable images all the way up to ISO 25600. It's still bested by the Sony a7S II, which has a much bigger sensor with pixels twice as large. However, the Panasonic has an ace up its sleeve. It captures video with 10 bits per pixel, or a billion colors, and subsamples those colors at 422. In comparison, Sony's camera only captures 8-bit, or millions of colors, with inferior subsampling. An apt comparison is RAW versus JPEG photos. When you go to edit the GH5S video, you have more information to work with. That gives you richer colors and the ability to produce HDR video. The GH5S also has less rolling shutter and better slow-mo. On the other hand, if you want more bokeh to better change the focus from one subject to another, Sony's larger sensor wins the day. Other cool features on the GH5S are focus transition that lets you program the focus between up to 3 subjects. It also lets you connect professional microphones, and don't forget the bright red accents and record button. You won't mix up video recording with photos, and it gives it a distinctive look. The GH5S is a joy to use for video and produces wonderful images. With a $400 higher price tag, it's a tough sell against the GH5 though. Vloggers and photographers might rule it out because of the lack of stabilization and lower resolution. All in all, it's a very interesting camera, and while I applaud Panasonic for building it, I'm not sure there's a huge market for it.